So the purpose of this webinar is to help the potential applicants better understand the Innovation Fund 2026 and the application requirement and what makes a strong application. So to make the most of our time for this session, I may move quickly through some sections of the presentation because we want to leave sufficient time for questions at the end. But this session is being recorded, so you will be able to review the details afterwards. So we have 1 hour together, and before diving into the application guidance section, I would like to start with a quick poll to understand who is in the audience and where you are in your Innovation Fund application journey. Let's now move into the main part of this session. So I will give an overview of the purpose of the fund, as you have read in the website or in the guide for applicants. The CIRCULÉIRE Fund 2026 supports collaborative innovation projects that help Irish industry test, demonstrate, and scale circular economy solutions across manufacturing, supply chains, value chains, and business models. And it is intended to help applicants de-risk circular economy innovation and generate practical learning that can be shared with CIRCULÉIRE members and the wider circular economy ecosystem. And the overall fund amount available for this year is €750,000. In terms of eligibility criteria, the consortium must be led by a CIRCULÉIRE member and involve the collaboration with at least one more institution. What we are looking for is projects which address a collective circular economy challenge, opportunity facing an industrial cluster, supply chain, value chain, or cross-sectoral group of actors. And we are looking for projects with a strong potential for a replication, scale up, or wider adoption, not just a one-off pilot. In terms of duration, projects may be 6 or 12 months long in duration, and we expect them to commence in January 2027. So in terms of project type, project may address one or more circular economy strategies, including but not limited to this list that you can see here. So design for circularity, improved asset utilization, novel material substitutes, circular procurement. And projects should consider how circular economy solutions are enabled by more than one system level intervention areas, such as business model innovation, technologies, market structure, skills and capabilities, and explain how they will be tested or addressed during the delivery. I put a mark here, so the project should prioritize higher value circular strategies and avoids lower value end of pipe and also recycling only approaches where more impactful alternatives are viable. Applicants should clearly distinguish between the kind of tangible, measurable outcomes and anticipated during the project life cycles. For instance, the pilot results, the validated solutions, the initial cost savings, staff upskilling, and the longer-term scalable impact that are expected post-completion. For instance, commercial rollout, sector-wide adoption, sustained costs, and the resources efficiency. We have some tips for the applicants. So applicants must clearly define, quantify, and also provide estimates for both outcomes and impacts where possible. And this is a critical component of the application. So we suggest you briefly explain how the estimates have been developed, including any key assumptions, calculations, evidence used. The applicant should structure their impact response in line with the following impact areas that I put here. This is a list of areas and the performance indicators, but it's not limited to this. So if your project focuses on the productivity and efficiency gain, think about the improvements in the resource efficiency, material utilization, or process performance, and think about the indicators that you will mention in the application. So evidence from the pilot demonstrations or trials, longer term gains enabled through scaling and wider adoption. If you focus on the jobs and skills, include indicators like metrics about the short-term impacts, such as the training and upskilling of project staff. Think about the longer-term impacts, such as job creation, so how many jobs you are creating, the transformation of the workforce or new capability development. If you look at the new products, processes, and the technologies, mention metrics about the development, the testing, or the validation of new circular solutions during the project. Think about the potential for post-project commercialization, deployment, or the replication. Looking at the sales, market development, or export growth impact area, think about the metrics on the early stage market traction or customer pipeline development during the project, the potential for increased sales, new market entry, or export growth following project completion. It's very important for applicants to demonstrate how the proposed project contributes to system level change beyond the project partners. And these may include enabling new forms of collaboration across supply chains, value chains, and the industrial clusters. Applicants should explain how the project moves beyond a single company or isolated use case, which potential for replication, scaling, or adoption across the wider CIRCULÉIRE network, and what would change at a system level if the project is successful. Here I have a slide on the budget size and funding rates. You have these in the guide for applicants. Keep in mind that the maximum funding available is up to 250,000 euro, and applicants should ensure that the scale of the funding is always proportionate to the proposed work plan, duration, expected impact, and value for money. Funding rates are always determined by the organization type and the nature of the funding activity. You can find the detailed funding rate rules set out in chapter 3 of the guide for applicants. You can find all the resources, all the documentation and information on the CIRCULÉIRE website. So I will highly encourage you to check the guide for applicants, the terms and condition, the application form before making decisions. Now, looking at the application form, which is the backbone of the application, the application form is divided into different sections. I would like to walk through the structure of the application form with you and what the reviewers will be looking for in each section to give you an overview. So starting with section 1, this is where you provide the core project information, including the project title, the duration, the total project cost, the grant request, the partner details, the type of your company, and the activity type. While this may seem like the administrative part of the application, it's important to get it right. So the strong applications are fully aligned across all documents, demonstrate compliance with the eligibility requirements, and involve the right consortium of partners to deliver the project successfully. The most common issues we see are inconsistency between the application form, the budget workbook, and the award submission. Incorrect a classification of the activity or the company and budgets that do not match the scale or the ambition of the proposed project. For section 2, this is really the heart of the application, because here you need to clearly explain the problem or the opportunity you have identified, the solution you are proposing, the context behind it, and why the project is novel or additional compared with existing like approaches. The strongest applications clearly articulate the challenge they are like addressing. They provide a compelling circular economy rationale, and they explain how the proposed solution differ from business as usual. So when we look at the common pitfalls, we see broad or generic circular economy language without demonstrating the specific circular intervention, failing to explain what will change as a result of like the project, or like providing insufficient evidence and context to support the proposal. Section 2 also includes the impact, and we are looking for quantified outcomes that will be delivered during the project, as well as the longer term outcomes that could result after the project has been like completed. Good submission present realistic and measurable impacts, clearly distinguish between project outcomes and longer term outcomes, and demonstrate that the circular impacts like priorities are aligned. Some of the most common weaknesses are a lack of the quantification, or like confusion between outputs and impacts, or claims that are overly like ambitious and not supported by evidence. Section 3 of the application form focuses on project delivery. So this section is all about demonstrating that you have a credible and realistic plan to deliver the project you have proposed. Evaluators will be looking not only at the idea itself, but also at whether the project can actually be implemented within the proposed time frame, budget, and the resources. So we ask applicants to provide a project execution plan, which is a structure like delivery plan with a sequencing of the activities and feasible timeline and the resources. When you are like completing this section, it's important to think of it as you are telling the story of how your project will be delivered from start to finish. So be really clear and structured in your plan. Explain where the activities are logically sequenced and linked to the specific outputs and milestones. The timeline should be realistic and also proportionate to the scope of your project, and it should be clear that appropriate resources have been allocated to deliver the plan like activities. Some common weaknesses we see in the applications might include work packages that are not clearly linked to project outputs, missing milestones, or project plans that are overly complicated and difficult to follow. Remember that simplicity and clarity are often more effective than complexity. Section 3 also includes work packages and partner roles. So strong application should include alignment between the activities, roles, and budgets. They should include a clear partner like contribution and demonstrable like collaboration. In terms of common mistakes or weaknesses, we encounter mismatch between the work packages and the budget, unclear partner roles, and missing outputs. Section 4 is about the communication and the dissemination plan. So you should like provide the case studies, briefing papers, or webinar, please include the value to the wider circular network and a clear dissemination like approach. When we look at mistakes, many times they treat these as an afterthought, and the outputs are not linked to the work plan. In the application form, you will also find a budget justification. So you must provide explanation of all costs, including staff costs, travel costs, equipment, subcontracting, and other goods and services. Strong applications include a clear link to work packages. They ensure that costs are necessary and reasonable and a good value for money. In terms of common pitfalls to avoid, please pay attention to listing costs without explanation. Make sure that there is a strong link to outputs, and read the eligibility rules carefully. So there is a salary cap and depreciation. At the end of the application form, you will find the declaration section. So it is important to be compliant with all the program rules, and it's important that all partners sign the declarations. In terms of common pitfalls to avoid, ensure that the information is always consistent across all documents and you do not miss signatures. So overall, the message is to be clear, consistent, and evidence-based throughout the application form. Evaluation criteria, you will find these on the guide for applicants. The proposal will be assessed against the evaluation criteria that you can find here. Application must secure a minimum score across all the criteria to secure the funding. So we included here on this presentation a roadmap to a successful application. So when drafting your application, think about some questions. So think when you clearly explain the problem and your circular solution, and this is 20% of the overall score. Think if your circular lab proposition is clear, credible, and easy for the evaluators to understand. It's important to demonstrate how your solution supports circular economy principle and delivers clear value. In terms of impact, this is the section with the higher score. So it's 80 points out of 255. Can you clearly and credibly describe the results of your projects will achieve during the funding project term? And can you describe the kinds of longer term impacts it could achieve if it is successful? So it's important to be clear about the underlying assumptions and the rationale behind your estimations. The impact claims must be measurable, realistic, and evidence-based. Make sure that the stated impact aligns with the circular priorities outlined in the guide for applicants. In terms of the delivery plan, think, have I clearly explained what will happen when it will happen? Who is responsible and how partners will work together. So it's important to stress, to show how partners will collaborate and contribute to achieving the project objectives, and demonstrate what activities are being prioritized and why. The other very important part is the technical excellence and innovation. So think carefully about what is generally new, improved, or differentiated about the solution you are proposing. Can I clearly explain why this approach is technically credible and likely to succeed? How does the innovation directly deliver circular economy outcomes? So show how the innovation you are proposing will improve the circularity through resource efficiency, reuse, repair, material substitution, or new circular business models. So here I capture a summary of what makes a strong application. So as I mentioned earlier, strong applications combine a clear circular proposition, measurable impact, and a well-structured delivery plan with clearly defined partner roles and collaborations. Higher scores are awarded to projects that demonstrate a technically sound solution that is credible, feasible, and capable of delivering meaningful circular economy outcomes at scale. Please ensure that the information included in the application form, project budget application workbook, and the awards force platform match. Make sure the budget and score are realistic and they provide the right organization type and activity type. Make sure that all the documents are submitted in the right format. So you can submit the application form and the supporting documents in PDF, but the project budget application workbook must be uploaded through a workforce in Excel format. It should not be converted to PDF. Please refer to the guide for applicants before making decisions about cost categories. Application process. So applicants must submit their application through the CIRCULÉIRE platform called Awards Force. All the documents like the application form, project budget, application workbook, signed and completed the minimis A declaration form must be submitted through this platform that you can find on the CIRCULÉIRE website. On the CIRCULÉIRE website, you can also find the templates for these documents. If you have any questions about the process, we have some time at the end where you can raise your questions. On the website, you can also find a tutorial of how to use the Awards Force platform. I would like now to share some examples of previous funded projects. These are some good examples that provide a high-level example of what we look for when we think about impact areas mapped against the metrics. So one of the ones we selected is the Circular Economy Skills initiative. The consortia was made of We Ireland, the IBEC White Goods Association, Fast Track to Information Technology, and the Louth and Meath Education and Training Board. And this project created an industry-led training and workplace program to address Ireland's shortage of white goods repair technicians, building, repair, reuse, and also refurbishment skills and capacity across the sector. In this table, you can find a summary of the impact areas and the KPIs. So how the impact areas match the metrics. So for instance, they looked at jobs and skills. So they addressed the shortage of white goods repair technicians, establish a new industry-led training and career pathway. They deliver upskill in repair, use, and refurbishment. In terms of new products, processes, or technologies, they looked at piloted Ireland's first dedicated white goods repair technicians program in over a decade. They validated a new skills development model for the repair and the reuse sector. In terms of productivity and the efficiency gains, what we have seen is the increased repair capacity and product lifetime extension, and they improved the resource utilization through repair and refurbishment. other aspects is the long-term circular economy impact, very important one. So they increase the availability of the qualified repair-led technicians, they extended the appliance lifetimes, and they reduced e-waste, and they created a model that can be replicated across other sectors and value chains. So what we really look in terms of strong focus in how the impact will be. So we don't want the projects to fund only pilot project, but to look at how it will be in a sustained way in a longer term. The second project I would like to share with you is that was previously funded was the Circular Economy and the Power of Many project. It was a consortium led by Freeform Building Products, and they work with Mullingan Guttering, Glenby Properties PLC, and Sharber Recycling. And the Circular Economy and the Power of Many project brought together partners across the construction value chain to pilot a circular take-back scheme for PVC, cardboard, and LDPE packaging. The project demonstrated material recovery, closed-loop recycling, and also reverse logistic models that diverted significant volumes of valuable materials from landfill and incineration. So looking at the impact area, so they work on the productivity and the efficiency gains. So the project improved recovery and utilization of PVC, cardboard, and LDPE materials. They demonstrated better management of the construction and demolition waste streams, and they diverted significant materials volumes from landfill and incineration. Looking at the cost savings, they demonstrated opportunities to reduce waste management costs. It was clear that they improved material value retention through collection and like recycling systems, and they identify logistics and regulatory improvements to support the commercial viability. Looking at the new products, processes, or technology impact areas, they designed and validated a circular take-back scheme for like construction materials and packaging. They demonstrated closed-loop recycling of LDPE into new packaging products, and the project tested also reverse logistics and circular supply chain processes. Looking at the long-term circular economy impact, the project contributed to improve reuse and recycling rates across the construction sector, reduce reliance on the virgin materials through greater use of the recovered resources. They created a scalable model for wider industry adoption and replication, which scaled overseas. Strengthen circular value chains between manufacturers, developers, and contractors and recyclers were also very clear as an impact outcome. So I mentioned here two projects, but you can find case studies and other details about projects funded in the past in the CIRCULÉIRE website. So this is a summary of other projects. And as you can see here, there were different sectors and different circular economy strategies that were funded across different funding windows. The deadline for the submission of application is the 31st of August. The evaluation will be conducted in September, and we expect awards to be notified in October. The project should commence around January 2027. Now, we end this session before the Q&A with an interactive poll. So I would like to ask you if you can please answer some questions. If you have any further question or doubts after this call, please reach out to us. This is my email, and we look forward to like receiving your applications, questions. So I will.
Is it helpful for me to kind of respond to some of the questions that have already come in that I've already addressed?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sophie.
No worries, no worries. And I suppose I can put my camera on as well here. I'm in hiding, so hi everybody. Okay, so we got a question which was basically for a demonstration project that requires a physical pilot site, are there restrictions on where a pilot can be located? For example, could we rent a suitable premises specifically for the 12-month project rather than operating it at one of the partner's existing sites? If we do rent premises specifically because they're required to house and operate the pilot, would that rental be an eligible direct project cost, or would it be considered a facilities cost that has come out of the 25% overhead allowance? So, and feel free to chime in on this, Valentina, but to the best of my knowledge, there are no restrictions requiring the pilot to be located on an existing partner site. A dedicated rented premises may be used where it's necessary for a project to be undertaken. If the rental is a project specific cost that's essential to delivering the pilot, it should be clearly justified in the application and budget. And general facility and overhead costs would normally be covered through the overhead allowance. So we can come back to you as well if there are any further questions on that, but that would be the kind of live response to that now. Then another query came in, which is fair, which was basically saying at the end, so sorry, it's regarding the length of the application form. So the application form itself is 31 pages in length. The guidelines state that it needs to be no more than 30 pages only, can we advise? So it's a very valid question. Just to clarify, the template itself is over 30 pages. That includes cover page, guidance notes, instructions, example text. The 30-page limit, however, would apply to the complete application content and would exclude those different kind of sections. So not the template in its original form. So practically where we imagine people could do is remove the title, cover page, introductory guidance, instructional example text with sections. Once you've completed your responses, they're intended to just help you kind of guide and prompt the responses. Retain the application structure. So please, that's really important in terms of we don't want you to accidentally, remove a section or a section heading or any response boxes or tables because they will be required when we're doing the evaluation. That information is really important that it's included. And this will significantly reduce the page count, but ensure that we have all of the content that we need for assessment. So basically, the kind of guiding principle here is the actual completed application form should not exceed 30 pages. And that excludes required appendices, any signed declarations, and all of that is kind of stated in the application form and also in the guidance. So hopefully that clears that up.
Yeah, and I also see a question on how many projects are likely to be funded in this round. So at this stage, we are not like providing a specific target number of projects to be funded because funding decisions will ultimately depend on the quality of the applications we will receive. So our focus right now is to support the strongest project that best align with the objectives of the Innovation Fund.
Yeah, perfect. And I see a question about access to funding, access to machinery and testing. So just to kind of be clear on that one, where access to machinery, equipment testing facilities or pilot infrastructure is necessary to undertake a project, any associated costs may be included in the project budget, provided they're clearly justified, that they're like reasonable, directly linked to project activities and work packages. And again, what you need to be able to do is provide an explanation of why that access is required and how the costs have been estimated. So once you have a kind of a sound rationale for that underpinning your budget and your kind of logic, that would put you in a kind of a position for that to be deemed an eligible cost in principle.
Yeah. Katie also asked whether we are going to share this slide deck with you all, and I can confirm yes. So we will share the recording and the slides with you so you can look at the details. I know the tables had so much details on that, so you can have a look at them afterwards.
Yeah. And all questions that we have fielded here, we will basically update the FAQs document to reflect this, just in the interest of transparency. So if we give advice to one company or respond to a particular question to one, we'll ensure that everybody has visibility to that information as well. So just in the interest of fairness. Anything else? Any other
One
queries?
more question from Katie, Sophie.
Oh yeah, sorry. I see it's just in here. Apologies. So I suppose this is a question regarding previous projects had 3 or more members in their consortium. Is it okay if there are only 2 members, or would it be advised to find additional members? So I suppose, the minimum requirement is 2 partners, so lead applicant plus 1 more. We do look at, value chain collaboration, systems change. And so I suppose the question is, do you feel you sufficiently meet that bar from just having those 2, project partners? Is it advantageous to have another project partner involved? And that can be, there can be other ways of looking at that. It can be letters of support. It can be signaling other ways that a wider ecosystem, support and involvement is there. I suppose the main thing that will kind of stand to really competitively well evaluated projects is there is that focus on systems change. And kind of, as we mentioned, industrial kind of clusters, value chain collaboration is really paramount there. So if you feel you can meet that bar, that's kind of a slightly slippery way of not answering the question exactly. You will not be deemed ineligible by having 2 project partners. But the question for yourself when reflecting on preparing an application is it really competitive? And I suppose there's a kind of a balancing act there in terms of ensuring budgets go far enough, ensuring people have significant roles. But I think there's other ways that, basically consortia can signal that they have support from, key ecosystem stakeholders as well, outside of formal kind of roles in projects. So there's a question that's come in here. Can we have project partners in the UK and other EU states? So for the purposes of this innovation pilot, no. And I believe that's also reflected in the FAQs document, if I'm not mistaken already. A question came up from the info session, which was about the eligibility of Northern Irish, for instance, based partners in a project. And actually, because this is an Irish funded mechanism, we can't really be using the fund to go into other jurisdictions. So this is really about regional, kind of national level circularity. So just to be explicit about that. Well, thank you. Good question. Anything else? Yeah, and that question has been included in the FAQ. So I'd urge you to go there as well, just to refer to that. Let me see, do we have any other?
There's one more from Noel.
How do we determine other partners? So it's another entity. So it needs to be a kind of a company of some sort. It can be a research partner as well. But basically, it needs to be an organization outside of the lead applicant to be deemed a kind of eligible partner. Is that fair? Anything you want to add to that, Valentina?
No, maybe I will just mention that in the guide for applicants, you can find description about what we consider a small enterprise, big enterprise, medium enterprise, like the different types of companies.
Yeah, and you can see the different type of categories, be it subcontractor, be it, a project partner, project lead. The other thing just to mention in terms of, I suppose, when considering whether somebody would be a good partner, I think some of the points to maybe reflect on would be things like expertise, their capabilities, their resources, and the value that they bring to supporting the particular circular economy opportunity or challenge. So what we want to look for is, complementary roles across value chains, let's say, or how exactly is this partner contributing to project delivery, to validation, to future scale up? So they're the types of considerations, I suppose, that when thinking about who would be a good profile of partner for this, beyond the CIRCULÉIRE member acting as lead partner, that they're the kind of considerations that I suppose we'd be, evaluators would be reflecting on, I suppose.
We do have one question on the chat from Marcus again.
I think we already got that one, right? So our applicants. Oh, apologies. Are applicants allowed to participate in more than one application? Yes, this one is actually also addressed in the FAQ, so don't worry. But basically, it's down to your own capacity to carry out both projects successful and the implications for a particular company's de minimis. So, if successful, do you, in two projects, hypothetically, would you basically automatically over exceed the de minimis threshold, 300K in the past 2 or however many years? So what I'd say is refer to the FAQ document just to get a kind of a clear-cut response on that and how we've addressed that question before. But it is down to capacity to carry out as well. So you would need to give an assurance that you can undertake both projects simultaneously if successful in both hypothetically. Do partner entities need to be well established and or trading? We have a potential partner who is newly formed entity having just completed New Frontiers. So I suppose the question I would have would be, is it two very, very novel kind of newly established project partners, or is it, a kind of a novel, innovative kind of partner, technology partner, let's say, partnering with somebody else? That would probably be deemed a kind of more secure proposition than two very kind of untested entities. So we can come back to you with a kind of more formal response on that one, just to kind of, clarify. But I think in principle, if they basically satisfy the UID, the undertaking in difficulty kind of requirements, we don't preclude or exclude ventures and startups. But again, it would just be down to meeting other eligibility criteria principally. But we will come back to you with a kind of formal response on that one. Okay. Barring we cannot basically comment on an application specifically, just given IMOR's kind of role in this space as, basically fund manager. We can try and assist with other kind of aspects of queries that have not been responded to today, or outstanding kind of challenges. So yeah, please do feel free to reach out to Valentina if anything has not been sufficiently addressed. So I'll hand it back to you, Valentina.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, everybody. As I mentioned earlier, you have my email address. Don't hesitate to contact me. And we really look forward to receiving your application. So good luck.
Yeah, just to echo what Valentina said there, just best of luck, everybody. We wish you all the best in putting in very competitive and, I suppose, compelling proposals. Do refer to the guide for applicants. My I suppose takeaway from today is that is essentially your holy Bible in terms of just any queries you have. It and the FAQ document, go there first before you kind of try to figure things out on your own. It should be fairly clearly laid out there if there's something that still is not sufficiently clear. So for instance, the question on the application form was a really good example of how we envisaged that being used was not explicit enough. So do come back to us if there's anything like that you just feel, it's not clear, you can't figure it out for yourself. But we wish you all the very best, and we hope to see lots of compelling projects coming through awards for us in the coming days. Okay, listen, thank you so much.
Thank you.